Quickly, before we start, I wanted to thank you so much. Now it's my turn to give away. I'm so happy we're over 2,500. And to celebrate, thanks to Artie, we rolled 6 exclusive redemption codes between subscribers. So definitely subscribe, hit the bell, and let's get right into this. Pleasure having you, and I look forward to having you back.
Thank you. Hey, I also have questions too. I have reverse interview questions. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the AFKArena Podcast. I'm here with the lesser-known content creator on the AFKArena side. You might not have heard of him. Can you introduce yourself?
Solid stuff. I'm Linker.
And what do you do? What do you focus on?
Got him. Are you doing my format?
Yeah.
I'm loving it. So I make content now. People on this channel know what I do. No, I make this fair. I make content that's mostly very in-game oriented. I really like the in-depth strategy side of things. Brief idea of it, I just really started by reading hero abilities, stuff like that, got super engaged, made it a little bit for my guild, got off, and now I'm making it for YouTube.
That's awesome. Dang it. See, I always do that thing. And now that you told me about it, it's like,
man.
No. It's fine. You can
But
edit
the editing, you saw how we featured that last one.
Yeah, agreed.
Eloquent.
Eloquent. So doing that is a ton of work. Just making all those videos and like spending the time to do that. So what about this game makes you so passionate to want to like put in the work and put in the hours to make those videos as successful as they are?
The biggest thing that drives me is how engaging this game is. I think the strategy aspect of it is so wide. You see all games, you see Idle Heroes and Dragalia, and you see all similar games, right? And they have plenty people. But as we talked about in your podcast, I think people are so engaged because this game is driving an audience retention on so many different spots. So if you talk about the early game, most other games in the early game have like audience retentions are terrible, like complete garbage. You talk about like 5% of people get to our equivalent of chapter 10. So lots of people get past this first stage. And then also, like once you have this strong community, they made the engine just really, really beautiful. And you look at new introductions like Pipa, for example. I love that thing. I love how they turned this game into something you and me can kind of experiment. You move one hero and you change something around, or like, oh my God, I just found the newest thing. And then you check Casual's Discord and they found it like 10 years earlier. But then like you're super hyped about it. I'm saying the strategic skill cap of the game is so incredibly high and easy to learn, hard to master in so many different senses. So I think this game's just captivating in the sense of how much depth you could get into it, and then again, how easily you can get into it.
That's very true. Yeah, you can make like a super easy team that's very, very consistent, or you can go with the Pippa route. And I'm curious how, like, when that comes in, how random is it going to be? How consistent is it going to be just because of all the random craziness that she does? So I don't know. I'm very curious to see. Do you have an idea of how random? Like, is she going to be where, like, is she going to have a consistent win rate when she comes in? Do you have an idea?
Oh, she's going to be really random because you see her picking ult, you see her picking orbs, you see her picking all kinds of things. So you're talking about the kind of like, obviously that's the successful heroes in campaign. Because when you go from, if you're going from behind, which you are in campaign, because campaign you do the retries, obviously. If you go from behind, you want the randomness. You want heroes that perform differently. I hate to admit it, you want Thor and you want Lucretia. These kinds of heroes, they really shine in campaign as opposed to PvP where consistency is key. But in a broader sense, how random is the game? I think that's a good sweet spot that they hit because everybody can get unstuck, progress in campaign given enough retries. And I feel like the way that this game engages players to try more, experiment more, and stay stuck closer more, or in the case of some of them, automate more, everybody has something to find in it to really get them forward. And the strategic deep aspect is something that's so fun, in my opinion.
Agreed. Is there any area of the game that you think that we're not quite focused on or we don't have enough information about?
Like what?
We have a ton of tier lists available, like you just did one today around SIs, and we have the furniture tier list and the hero tier list. Is there any part of the game that we're not focused on or that we should be kind of focusing on that we haven't quite tapped into yet?
You know, I'll take that question. I'll do the politician thing where I answer it the way that I wanted it to be asked.
Okay.
Solid thing. Solid thing. No, I'm just kidding. But like, I think the area that we're not focused on enough, in a broad sense, is going to be two things. It's going to be first and foremost testing.
Hmm.
because I feel like this is something that's seriously untapped. Like the fact that you can essentially, like, all right, starting from testing interferon and arena, obviously, but all the way to knowing what signature items you want to pick from those differences. This is some skills that players could pick, but they really don't have the approach to. And
Mm.
the second thing I feel like we could seriously capitalize on is advanced decision making. And this is important to me.
Hmm.
I believe in planning ahead. And the kind of content we have, like tier lists, and this is going to be a hot take, is so shallow in that regard.
Hmm.
I mean, the way I see AFKArena, foresight is the number one predictor of whether a player is going to get to enjoy the game to the fullest or quit at 31-4. And sure, stubbornness is another big one. You have people retrying that stage for 10,000 times. But that aside, being mindful of your decisions and reaping the rewards just feels so right. So, Taylor, I digress. They don't take into account synergies. They don't care about substitutions. They're mostly pointed at one point in the game, making them inaccurate for the rest. So I make mine and I'm proud of them, and I try to point them at the very top because that's where I believe the biggest aim is at. But then again, an early game player can just take Savviest Meryl to town, completely forget about everything
Agreed.
I'm talking
Agreed.
about. So that's what kind of I'm trying to address in my channel. I'm trying to give people the tools. I want them to have their own decisions. And I know 90% of the viewers of my tier list are just going to look for something to copy paste. And I'm just a guy that can accurately affect what works at the top very well. And I'm happy to serve that role too. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm happy to be the one guy that can bring this information from chapter 36 right now down. But when I started this, what passed through my mind is I could be the guy who helps someone make the decision they would otherwise never make and be happy about it and have them reap the rewards and just be big brain and have fun. And if I got one guy or girl to do that, then I'm content.
Brought a tear in my eye. Yeah, I think the other day that was talking about the early game tier list, and it just looked like a late game one. Like it was just it's very hard to like come in and show a new person, because like those are geared for new people. Like these are the heroes that you should build, but there's like no information about why you need to build them that way or like anything. So jumping in right away and seeing that can be kind of overwhelming. And so I don't know how to even like handle that, but part of it is just like just play the game.
Look, you want people engaged. Like you want people doing their own testing. There's no way that you could map out every single path of progression in the game and optimize it, right? Like it's not like, I don't know, checkers where you can map all the moves and just figure out the winning strategy. It's something that's far beyond that. You have so many different combinations of heroes you could get at campaign stages. So you want to focus on these stuff. In a lot of senses, it's like chess. You teach every single position to some extent, like openings or something. But then after you pass that opening phase, what you teach is principles. Like you say, look, what you want to achieve is you want to have a carry, you want to have supports. You want to have a general plan for where you're going. You want to know what are your benchmarks in terms of trees that you want to hit, what furniture are you aiming for. A lot of it is
Mhm.
also going to be random. So since it's so non-deterministic, also in the gacha element, not just in the campaign fighting element, you just got to understand what you're doing. And when this is what you face, like you face so many things that are not determinate, you just got to face it on a broader approach. And this is what I've been trying to do with the channel. I hope to
Yeah, no,
some
it's
success.
been awesome to see, just because like you've done those deep dives into specific heroes like Pharrell and Pipa, and just making sure that people know all the different like kind of aspects a hero can do. That's been huge for sure. Big, yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Thank you, man.
So kind of dovetailing into something else, can you talk to a bit about the community for you, like the community surrounded around you, and kind of how that's formed and how that's kind of changed over time?
Oh, you mean how I made my own community, or are you
The
talking about
your
the community
community,
in
like the
general?
people who watch your videos, the people who comment on your stuff, has that changed over time?
The way I started
Hmm.
is I had my own guild. And what I did was I would go 1v1 with people and we would have those chat conversations. Oh my God, this little chat pad. We would have like these chat
Hmm.
conversations overnight and we would like go over their heroes, their trees, their furnitures, their everything. And we
Hmm.
would come up with a plan. I did it over my own guild. People really liked it. I remember like people like Skinny Kid, Ida Killer that are really big in my Discord right now that I did this with, and it was really, really good. And people gave me incredibly positive
Hmm.
feedback.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really great at first. Like it was a tiny community. The next thing I did is I'm actually not a social media man in
Hmm.
my own life. I don't have a Facebook, for example.
Hmm.
But what I did want to do is I did want to see, like, look, I'm giving advice to all these people. Could I be misleading them? So I went on Reddit, is what I did. And on Reddit, I started by reading a lot. Like I started, just like in the start, I read all hero abilities. I came up and read all kinds of different posts and guides that were at the time. Big content creators, I could shout out White Sushi. I could shout out. I'll cut that. I don't remember anyone else. Obviously.
Yeah, Shazam.
I could shout out Shazam. I could shout out Shazam. I could shout out all kinds of people.
Mhm.
And I think like the community was really well established at the time. Obviously, Kale started to build it. I joined at a pretty late stage. Like it was already over 100,000 people.
Mhm.
And I think the point where I blew was started making my own guides. But at the very first or second one, I think, was the one where I gave unknown facts about the game. And this is just a list I did. I don't know if you ever saw it, did you?
I think so. Well, I have a terrible memory, so but I think I did see it.
I hear you. So I actually like made a second one, and then I made a video of a third one. It was a really good idea,
Mhm.
but I just made it, and I saw people's response to it. It was just overwhelmingly positive. Like people were so happy about it, and I thought, look, maybe I can do more of this. Like people like it so much. If I used to just help my guildies in a one-on-one session, I could just like make this kind of a post and reach like 10 times the people at that amount of time, and that really fascinated me. And so I kept on making these Reddit guides, and eventually, I mean, I think the natural point of it was when I started making a tier list and talking about every single hero that I thought, look, just having the tier list in people's eyes might be better. So I started trying to edit videos, and I still suck at it. I still don't know what I'm doing. But started making these YouTube videos, and the response again was just so good from the community. I couldn't be asking for more. And I guess you could talk about this whole process about how the YouTube grew. I think I still have a lot to grow. But one thing I think that's an outlook that not many people know on the way that it grew for me is that personally, I've seen a lot of those endgame guilds grow, and I've seen casuals, I've seen Cloud, I've featured them many times, I've seen the Chinese guilds. And on the very top level, you have a lot of negativity and competition, a lot of toxicity too, I feel. And that's one of the things that I was trying to address in the early days because I was one of those members that had the luck to join all these different communities based off just what I do. And in a very early time, I tried to stand against that. So, for example, when I started my own Discord, which happened like a little bit after the YouTube, I seen a lot of people negative towards Vulcan. Not a lot, but maybe a few. And they were like saying, look, he's just newer. He doesn't exactly know the game. But I love the guy. I love Vulcan. I think he does what he does so good. He got so many players engaged. He does everything so right. And then again, you have a lot of people that were negative towards the mods after the Eins release. And looking at these kinds of things, in both cases, I've took a solid stance against it. And when you voice opinions on the internet, obviously you get haters. And I've suffered my fair share of haters for it. I've had some before. I have significantly more now, and it's growing. And this is one thing that really surprised me because when I came into this, I was thinking, okay, like I talk about the game. This is not politics. Like you disagree with me, okay. So you think like, I don't know, you think Kaz is a really good hero? Okay, whatever. So we disagree. You close the video, don't watch it. I've been overwhelmed both by the positive response, but I've been surprised, not overwhelmed, but I've been surprised by the amount of negative. I guess this is a part of how things are on the internet. But I'm very lucky to have this core set of people in my community so incredibly supportive of me and what I do. And that really kept me going.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've seen too about the people who are actually like committed to being positive members of the community. They're just like you just can't replace them. They're so good. That's awesome. But yeah, no, I really liked your answers too. That was good. How do endgame players feel about the direction that the game is going, like being more interactive and especially too, like with I think chapter 37, they added in endgame heroes or like the campaign fights have SIs associated with them. Do you think that's like a healthy direction for the game to go?
Obviously, there's going to be a wall. So there was
Mhm.
always a wall around the place where the game content ended. One thing that Shazam said that I think gives a lot of insight is how for a while, a lot of players were stuck in 3460, for example. So you saw
Mhm.
around that place, the developers tried to spike up the difficulty, but it ended up with a lot of whale frustration. And obviously, you got to keep those real end game engaged players. And so what they did is they added signature items and they made the team scale. So in 34, for example, you start the chapter at 200,000, if I remember right, overall replay power at min power, and you ended around 500 million. So amazing, incredible scaling. And
Mhm.
I think this is a part, SIs are in that role, they're a part of a larger mechanic that's meant to give those players a challenge. And with the recent additions of those chapters that really nobody's going to reach, like 36, 37, 36, we have people, 37, once you see this in 2030, you guys can make fun of me, but 37, you see, like, you see stuff like I think Lilith really found a sweet spot to engage these players in terms of campaign. What I would really be looking forward to is Lilith capitalizing on those events they added. So they had this PvP event, Heroes of Hesperia, I think it was called, where they had 7v7 teams. Really cool stuff. Got all the players engaged. I was first place for 10 seconds. Got my screenshot. Yeah, it was mad. Vulcan asked me about it. Mad stuff. Absolute mad lad. Took 1,000 screenshots, then got knocked down all the way. I think that kind of stuff, like those events to engage those endgame players, is going to be what keeps them really engaged, on top of obviously the game mechanics. So furniture obviously got endgame players thinking. This is like a short-term thing, because obviously they think, they figure it out, and then it's like done. Because furniture is one thing. Eventually you have it formalized. But the 7v7 meta, like when they introduce new modes like Abyssal, this stuff really keeps those endgame players engaged.
No, for sure. I do wish that they I think with newer accounts, the time investment, if you kind of look at it kind of percentage wise, like 80 to 90% of your time in the early game is spent in the campaign. But as you get further in, it's just like it starts to really shift, where I feel like unless you're really grinding it out, like 10% of your time is spent in campaign, and the rest of it is through like the King's Tower and Voyage and all that kind of stuff. Just because like you only have to play like 5 to 10 minutes a day, except when events come out, then you kind of increase that time. So yeah, I think definitely investing in those events, especially as like your time in the campaign, that's really important. I hadn't thought about it that way. So this one can be kind of off the record, but especially today, like I was reading about in your just Discord, there's a lot of people upset about the dimensionals and like the speculation that free to play can only get one of them, and they're already thinking about jumping ship. And I wanted to ask you, like, do you feel like Lilith is like one step away from like losing the community?
I mean, I'll answer that in two parts. Obviously, my Discord has a lot of people doing memes, so obviously a lot of fun there. But at merit, I think your question, I think this question has a lot to it. You look at it, obviously, like you're trying to balance. It's a game where no matter which way you pull the ship, it's obviously part of it is gonna, some people are gonna fall off, because different players play the game for different reasons. I do feel like the overall intent of the game, where you look at how the game progresses, when you look at the big changes like 31.4, you look at how the game is designed, I feel like the game's mind is in the right place. But I feel like in a lot of places in the past, they've made mistakes. Like I feel, for example, you see, like you talked about it, the trading hub. I think that was a mistake. I'm not sure to say that. I think when you get so many players so engaged, so much community hype, you got to deliver on something that the community can enjoy. Obviously, there's a balance between newer players and whales, but you got to be more precise. You got to do more testing. You got to know what you're doing. And I feel like the largest thing that Lilith can do in this point is honestly formalize developer player feedback. Because if you make this transparent, the type of players that really care, the type of players that are not just hopping, doing the dailies, going out, these players, what they want is they want to see that the developers are hearing out what you say and that they're changing the game. And having this game change out so rapidly, like I don't know another game, honestly, and let me know if you know, that just pops out 10 events, like just one day just throws at you. I don't think this happens. And when you see a game with so much potential, I just wanted to live up to that potential. And I think that, like, formalizing this feedback is going to be this necessary step, having so much community engagement in the first place.
Yeah, agreed. One of the things that like kind of bothers me, and this is like actually kind of in a lot of areas, not just like this game, but in a lot of areas of like culture, is I feel like we have to fight so much. And we saw that most recently with like the Halloween event. When that one came out, I think what happened, like you could only get 50 of the event currency, which wasn't even enough for a hero. And Lilith had never done that before. Like that was like such a different thing that people were like immediately mad and like so upset and angry. But Lilith had never done that before. And it feels like it was just like they copied it from the last time they ran the Magician's Hat. it just kind of sucks that we have to like go to such lengths to be heard. And it would be nice if like
Mm-hmm.
the developers just like heard us and we're like, okay, like we can still make a ton of money and like also do this for the community without having us like go to bat every time. If that makes
I saw like one thing. I saw this Chinese guy who just completed all the 9 out of 9,
sense.
and I'm like, oh my god, look at that! The royalty has a lot of free time.
Yeah.
Yo, change your Google Play to Kazakhstan. That's where the lowest you could pay. But I digress. I digress.
He had like a little thing in there about how his friends were moving on from AFKArena, and I don't know, that's kind of a bummer to read about. And so too, like, do you think a lot of older players are leaving, or is there a certain point where you're like, okay, I'm done and I don't want to play this anymore?
So there's gonna be the grind and there's gonna be the burnout, and I think these two are gonna be the biggest points I feel for endgame player retention because newer players they don't like the game, they leave. Players they see the game as pay to win friendly, they leave. They think the animation suck, they leave. They think whatever. Their girlfriend breaks up with them, they leave. You have endgame players then. Endgame players like they're engaged in the game. You have mad retention. You have people trying. So it's either just the grind, like one of the spots where you see people quit the most. It's 31-4 because obviously big spike and just people get tired and like, oh my god, I don't get this dopamine. I don't get the drive. What do I do now? And it's like that's the mode of the game. That's what you came here to play. I'm sorry to tell you, it's gonna be rough. All the views that are getting there, but it's what's up. And most of the players are either burning out from like the game itself or from playing the game. And let me just explain briefly the difference between the two. If I'm talking about the game itself, I'm talking about the mechanics of campaign, about the fact that you're gonna be stuck on a stage for a week. And like the times where you did 7 stages in 3 hours with your Wukong, they're long gone. It's over. It's over. You gotta look up those strategies if you want to advance, but you gotta take a lot of time between those advantages and I'm gonna pass you on the ladder if you do that. And and then there's gonna be the grind and the burnout in the sense that, for example, all these engaged players, they whole communities, and you see Newton talked to me about this the other day. He said, "Look, maintaining a community is difficult. It takes a lot, and you see a lot of those players that really get engaged in the end game, really maintain it, really comment, and they start just losing interest. They start just burning out. The campaign stops being fun. They stop commenting on Reddit. They don't log in anymore. And they start playing Genshin Impact, God forbid. And then like and then you just see it happening, and it takes. I mean, I guess it's the way it is. Life has ups and downs, and I think nobody's gonna play this game forever, and not even me. As sad as this might make the viewers, please don't dislike this video. But you see the game and you say, all right, burnout is rough. Burnout is an issue, and as problematic as it might be just the natural course of a game that's as well designed as this one.
Mhm. No, that makes sense. I do want to say too, not to end on like on this kind of negative note, but like the game is amazing, and like for me personally, I'll be curious like once it actually happens, I spend the diamonds, I realize how little I got. But like I don't imagine myself leaving the game anytime soon. It's just kind of like thinking about it, I guess, just to see like what Lilith can do to kind of prevent that from happening. But yeah, I don't know. I love the game. Do you love the game?
I love the game.
Good. I mean, I would hope so if you have this, you're creating this community and you're making all these videos and whatnot. So, okay. Do you have any words of advice or tips for people who may be looking to get into the content creator scene, but just haven't figured it out or not sure how to do it?
Personally, the way I did it is I started from my smallest space, which is the guild. And at first, obviously, I didn't have everything straight. And I think the community really cares about you being a reliable source if you really want to be a trusted source. And so when I started, I was with my guild and I obviously improved there. But when I first came to Reddit, I think obviously people were nicer, like they were good overall, but they corrected me on a lot of things. I was actually wrong about a lot of things, and I still listen to this day, both on like content creation, like editing on the video, which started terribly, like I had the music all the way up. Uh, and also on the understanding of the game. Like I don't know everything. I don't think anybody specifically does. So what I would do from my own path, what I learned is I would start from this close set of friends. Like if you're starting out, like voice what you have to say, hear what other people around you think about it. Like in your local Discord, ask somebody that's knowledgeable that you know. Go further from there. And once you feel like you got that positive response, just take what people like and bring it forward. Like bring it forward to Reddit. bring it forward to a bigger platform, ask people. I think the biggest thing that helped me personally is thinking what kind of information people would enjoy, being humble about it, like being able to take feedback at face value and improving on from there. And if you produce something that's very high quality and you're humble about it and you're approachable about it, I think eventually within a few posts, you'll get some sort of recognition. So there's a lot of types of recognition in the community. It's just people liking you and you getting to the hot page, which is a solid achievement. There's getting contributor titles, which is not as easy, but I've heard for a lot of people, it's a benchmark. And if you're at that stage where you're already making reliable content and you want to be caught on, what I would advise is you just approach the people. Like there's a lot of people, they would talk to you. There's Kale, head of the Reddit. There's May, head of the Discord. Just talk to them out, hear what they have to say, be open to suggestions. And in due time, like you will grow bigger, you will get higher. And me personally, like, I feel very successful, but I know there's a lot to do and a lot more to grow for myself too. So I'm looking for that path myself as we speak.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So a little bit of persistence and a lot of humbleness. I like it. Okay, so last question. This is one that my viewers are asking. Like they just want to know, and it's a hot topic. Yeah, my viewers. Because this is my space. This is my platform.
Exactly.
So this one, take a minute to think about it. But how'd you spend $1 million diamonds on your account?
Oh.
Got him.
Oh my God! I guess it depends on what you want. I guess it
This
depends
is
on
for
what you want to
you
achieve.
personally.
Oh,
personally.
for me. Okay, assume I had $1 million. How would I spend them? Recently, I got to this point where summons are pretty much redundant and gazing starts to be redundant. I don't have Lucretia, Zafriel, Flora, Mizoth, all ascended. I'm not that big of a whale. I consider myself a strategic dolphin. But but it started to get to the point where I personally use most of my diamonds and features and heroes that when I'm bolden. For example, furniture is one thing, signature item is another, and I just try to make certain spots of my arsenal stronger. Like right now, I have so many heroes I need to signature item up. Eins and Albedo are two big ones that got added recently. Isold is one, so I guess I would kind of try to save it, look for lab store sales, and capitalize off of that and just get the resources that I need. But in $1 million diamonds, I assume I'll even have some space maybe to even get one of those animated portraits that no FTP can get.
Yep. I love it. That's a great answer. All right, I think that's all the time we have for today. Again, this podcast is to bring up lesser known people like Linker.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope that that you get what you're looking for, that you can just keep building that community up. That's just starting so small, but I imagine it'll be a beautiful thing here soon. Is there anything else
you so much? Oh, I love your podcast and what you do, Chromos. That's absolutely incredible.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. It means a lot. All right. Well, with that, I think that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, dude. That was fun. We did it. Podcast.
Yeah, we did.